So, before we begin the final and my favorite floors of the Lunar Subterrane, I would like to mention the item you get for completing the Young's Trial, because I did forget to mention that. For completing Young's Trial, you get the Discipline Armband, which I think replaces his normal Focus command with something that is shorter to charge and more powerful? Something like that, anyway. I haven't played enough of the GBA version to know exactly what it does, but it does change his command. Anyway, the final floors of the Lunar Subterrane are a little bit different than the previous ones. The previous ones were okay. But this floor looks absolutely amazing, and if you... oh, for fuck's sake, surprised, really. And if you heard, like, the 3 seconds of music that played before we got to this guy, you would know that that is the Giant of Babel music. It does kind of suck that the Lunar Subterrane doesn't have its own unique theme, but I'll take the Giant of Babel because that's a really damn good song and definitely perfect for the final area. And the area itself, I'll talk about in a moment because, well, you can't really see it at the moment. So this is Death Mask. As you might have guessed, this guy's a little bit tough considering he has the boss music. He's nowhere near as bad as the behemoths can be. But anyway, he's got 37,000 HP. He is resistant to all elements other than light. And he's not weak to light. He just doesn't, he's not resistant to it. Doesn't absorb anything either. Anyway, Reflect isn't his only gimmick, but he does seem to like it. He's also got the spells Holy Bio, Kiraga rather, and Flare. In addition, he has Laser Barrage, which, if you'll remember, is that one very annoying attack that the attack node had during the CPU fight. And trust me, it is very, very strong here. And considering he does like his Reflect spells, ooh, yeah, see, if he were to do a Laser Barrage now, then I wouldn't really be able to heal efficiently, and that wouldn't be good. Of course, on the bright side, I feel like he doesn't do Laser Barrage very often after he starts doing Reflect. Like, once he reflects, that's when he starts going into attack spell mode or heal spell mode if he needs it. He usually starts the fight with Laser Barrage if he's going to do it. And quite frankly, whenever he starts the fight with Laser Barrage, I don't have a good time. Just gonna say that. So, the area itself also looks fantastic, and it only gets better. Like, it looks cool now. I love the tile set here. And this does closely resemble the SNES version, what with the area being all blocky and whatnot. They do try to smooth most dungeons out, you know, they give them a few corners, don't make it look like it's just a tile set, they try to make it look more natural, but here I feel like it's fitting that they kept it like this. Speaking of layouts, I believe 2 of the floors were actually switched in this dungeon. I think it's the next floor and the floor after that. I don't know why, because pretty much the entire game is pretty close to the original version in terms of map design, but they just switched things here. Anyway, I just wanted to show off that you can find behemoths down there, or down here, rather, and it is a little bit different from the SNES version. In the SNES version, you could find 2 behemoths in this area, thus making it far more annoying. They make up for it by giving behemoths in this version double HP, making them tougher early on, but it kind of evens out here, and it's less tedious, which I appreciate, because honestly that's all double behemoth really is. If you can handle 1 behemoth, you can handle 2, it's just a little more to juggle. Anyway, we're fighting Ogopogo, a recolor of Leviathan, and because he's a recolor, he knows a good water spell called Deluge. How much is this gonna do? Well, that's not actually horrible. I've had worse. Ooh boy, have I had worse. Alright, so, Ogopogo. Fantastic name. 50,000 HP, 70 strength, 145 defense. He is resistant to all elements. Yes, that includes electricity. He's only normal weak to electricity. And he absorbs water. So don't use it. That being said, other than Deluge, he also has the attack Whirl. I don't even remember if he uses it here. He does have a specific pattern, which I will mention here because they have it. In the 3D version, it's Deluge, Deluge, attack, 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 Deluge, attack, attack, then back to the start. So, yeah. The double Deluge is kind of where everything goes wrong, I would have to say. It's different in the SNES version, in that, basically, he still does Deluge times 2, then he attacks 3 times, then he Deluges once, then he attacks twice. And if he gets hit by lightning, he will use Whirl. If he gets hit by summon, he'll use Frost Blast, and if hit by normal magic, he also uses Frost Blast. So, it does seem like a downgrade, but thankfully, because I just decided to keep the website open rather than write this stuff down because, hey, it's not going to be factually correct half the time anyway, I can check the differences between them. No HP difference. Honestly, it really doesn't look like too different to battle. 150 attack, and only 70 strength. Yeah, honestly, it seems like he's easier in this version, but I'm not an expert on previous versions, so if he is tougher here, well, I can't quite tell. And honestly, I'm not really too focused on figuring out whether or not he's tough because I'd like to go back to the Lunar Trials, because I also have to go over that and the conversation, or the internal thoughts of the characters. There was a better way to phrase that, but screw it, I'm moving on. So, Edward's trial. Basically, he goes back to Damcyan, except instead of being burned down, it's frozen for some reason. It's probably symbolic or something, but I don't really care. Basically, you have to go around to a whole lot of dead soldiers and sing them a song so that they can pass on, and I think they'll attack you sometimes, but then you can just fight them and then they'll pass on anyway. And I believe the boss of that area is actually Lunar Shiva, which would make sense. By the way, the boss of Yang's trial is Lunar Titan, and I believe once you beat them, you get an item that can summon them. However, it only works once, and when you use it, the trial re-unlocks and you can enter it again and re-earn the summon item. Anyway, moving on. Rosa has to go around and heal a whole lot of guys, but some of them are just guards in disguise and don't need healing and will instead attack you. And I think you have a timer, and then you fight Lunar Asura. And after that, once you beat her, I think if you get all of the people healed, you get an item called the White Ring, which changes her prey command into Miracle. You probably know the deal by now, I don't know what Miracle does. I'm gonna guess it's just an upgraded prey, in which case I would like that in this version, but oh well. Honestly, I'd rather not upgrade prey if it would mean having to go through the Lunar Trials. So, Edges, I think, is just a maze? Like, one really big, boring maze or something like that? Honestly, I can't remember anything remarkable about it. The boss there is Lunar Ifrit, and by beating him, Edge gets the Hanzo Gloves, which is basically what normally gives you, or what gives you the attack that's normally known as Mug. Here it's called Plunder, though. Basically, that just means that you'll try to steal something and also attack at the same time, so that's usually a pretty useful ability. I want to save Kain's trial for last because that one's my least favorite. I don't know if I'll be able to get that across well enough, but I'll try. Cid, you go around giving people airship rides, and then Lunar Ramu gets really mad at you, and oh yeah, by the way, you get the Masamune, which is Edge's best weapon. You'll see its stats in a moment. Anyway, moving on. Lunar Ramu gets really mad at Cid, so you have to fight him, and for that you get the Fiery Hammer, which can cast Flare, so it's a pretty damn good weapon, even if it doesn't really upgrade any of his abilities. So, Palamonporum is like the Final Fantasy III dungeon, I guess. You basically have to, like, use Minnie and Toad or something like that? It's something like that. Basically, it's just a teamwork gimmick. And in the end, you fight Lunar Leviathan, and you get the Twin Star accessory, which gives you stuff like Double Meteor when you use Twin Cast. After that, where's Cecil's trial on here? Because I missed that. Okay, I remembered what that did. Basically, you have to do good deeds, which means kind of like a WarioWare-ish thing, where sometimes you have to fight things, or sometimes you have to help people, or sometimes you have to not plunder chests, which makes no sense to me. And if you do all your good deeds, you get the Lightbringer, which is his final weapon in that version. Better than even Ragnarok. And if you fail all of them, apparently he just gets a weapon that's pretty much only useful for throwing. And the boss of that area is Lunar Odin. My least favorite one, though, is Kain's Trial, which is my absolute least favorite, because it's a very boring murder mystery that goes on forever. And the thing is, you know how murder mysteries are supposed to be interesting? It's not interesting at all. Basically, the entire thing makes it look like Kain is doing the murdering, because there's a bloody lance in his room every day, but it's actually his dark side which is doing the murdering, and it's like, hey, you want to kill Cecil? And you can't say yes, but then you'll fail the trial and you'll have to do it again, and God help you if you do, because it's just going around talking to people. And in the end, you had to fight Lunar Bahamut, and then you'll get Abel's Lance and the Dragoon Gloves, which gives him a more powerful jump in the form of the double jump command. And that's it for the Lunar Trials. I believe we're actually going to be moving on to the final floor soon, right? Well, if that's the case, I suppose I should be getting started on character thoughts since we're very nearly at the end. Yeah, 3 minutes left, jeez. Okay, I'll just say ahead of time, last floor looks really fucking cool. Okay, so we'll start with Cecil's thoughts. This goes from arriving on the moon again for the final dungeon, and it's right up to the final floor, which we'll see ourselves. So, Cecil has to say, Golbez, my brother? Zemus awaits us down below. Fusaya Golbez. And here's where it gets semi-interesting. What is it I wish to do? Why was Zemus able to control Golbez? Is Golbez truly evil after all? Kain was used as well. Even I've done unforgivable things. First Mysidia, then Mist. Alright, so, I guess we have Zemus's Malice. We're only going to be seeing this guy, but there's also an enemy called Zemus's Breath, which is pretty much useless because all it does is scan you for like 10 turns, and then it will try to use Blaster on you. And that's pretty much it for that guy. You can kill him easily enough. Zemus's Malice, on the other hand, is very obnoxious. 20,000 HP, 62 strength, 130 defense, but he'll keep on increasing it because he has Protect and Shell. He also likes to confuse you, which is very annoying. So basically the strategy here is, first off, don't use fire because he absorbs that, and pretty much just throw your powerful stuff at him, because otherwise he's just not going to take a lot of damage. Okay, I already did Cecil's thoughts. After this battle, I think I'll take a quick break to let future me go over the character thoughts. Just so, you know, we have time to do that, and, you know, to discuss it just a little bit, because I would like to do that. Because, again, I do find the character thoughts pretty interesting. Cecil's is okay. Not one of my favorites, but, you know, it's nice to see him go further on that whole, oh, maybe I could have been controlled. And, you know, despite the fact that Golbez was like, no, I'm the evil one, Cecil does have a point in that he has done some bad stuff. But even then, he's the main character, so he couldn't be controlled anyway. So, future me, take it away. Thanks, past me. Alright, so, I'll try to make this short, since this is a fairly short episode anyway, and we are winding down, what with walking down the final path. Right, so, no other final thoughts on Cecil. honestly, I would like to see more of like the general gist of what he was thinking about in the game itself, but that would require like a huge restructure of the plot to make it so that characters have a little more depth than they did in the SNES version. Otherwise, pretty good. I like what they added in. So, next up, we have, how about we go with Rosa, because unfortunately she's my least favorite of the I keep calling them conversations, but they're monologues. Rosa's thoughts are, Cecil, after he almost left her behind on the Earth to go die on the moon. So, after that we have, these crystals, are they vessels for the thoughts of the Lunarians? We must hurry. So many have suffered in this conflict, and now we're going to get into the quote-unquote more interesting part. Rydia lost her home, Edge his parents. Kain, you suffered in silence for my sake. Forgive me, Kain, and thank you. All our thoughts are with you, Cecil, and we'll be seeing the last one in a few minutes. So yeah, not really too fond of these, because it's just Rosa worrying about everyone else, because she never really got any sort of plot of her own. I mean, I still appreciate the fact that she did the impossible all the way at the start of the game, but still, that's more me looking far too into the game, kind of having a, not really a plot hole so much as just a gameplay hole. Either way though, yeah, me looking too in-depth into things. They don't give Rosa much to work with in general, sadly, but I still like her. Like her better than Fusoya, that's for sure. Anyway, speaking of mages, I think we'll go with Rydia next. So, once you land on the moon, Rydia begins with, he can't forgive Golbez, even though they're brothers? Fusoya and Golbez may actually be strong enough to do this. Could he really be so strong that even the two of them would fall? He's your brother, Cecil. Won't you forgive him? I couldn't forgive Cecil either, not at first. Why did Mother send her dragon against Cecil and Kain? Mother must have been trying to protect me. Cecil protected me too. And it'll go on to something else later, but again, Rydia's just going on and on about the whole Cecil not being able to forgive Golbez thing. I mean, what's her hang-ups with family? Was her mother killed her? Oh. Seriously though, she's the one character who just goes on and on and on about that. Like, no one else really weighs in on it, including Cecil himself. Like, he vaguely ponders the existence of Golbez. He says Golbez in his thoughts, but he never really gets farther than that. For Cecil himself, it's mostly just how he's also done these things, so I can kind of see how it would run parallel to Golbez, even though he doesn't say it himself, so I guess I was kind of wrong. Anyway, yeah, I don't know why they give Rydia that role of just saying, hey, Cecil, why don't you forgive your brother? You know, maybe you should forgive your alive family, wink. And they kind of skip around as well, because they go from that to, oh wait a minute, yeah, I remember my mother, and then back to, okay, yeah, Cecil, you should forgive your brother, come on. The Cecil protected me too line is kind of interesting, and it does sort of connect back to the fact that she does worry about Cecil not forgiving his brother. So there is some connection, and I guess if anything the DS version sort of connects that, because otherwise if you're playing any other version, yeah, Rydia's just on and on about the whole brother thing, so I guess the DS version does help that, so I can appreciate it to some extent, but I do really wish that they gave Rydia at least a little something else, but again, it would require a pretty big restructure of the plot if they wanted to change a lot of things for the DS version. And the DS's focus was mainly gameplay, but anyway, that kind of thing should be saved for the credits. So, next off we have Kain, who I find the second most interesting. Upon arriving on the moon, Kain will start with, ellipses, I know my path now. Anyway, we're coming for you, Zemus. Cecil, if you can forgive me, then please, forgive him too. I need to see this finished. I cannot rest until I do. This wave of hate, does it emanate from Zemus? No, these thoughts are not my own. I bear no ellipses, no ill will towards Cecil. No, that makes no sense. I would never hate Rosa. And we'll have to wait for his last line a little bit later. But I do kind of like how they have a callback to Kain being controlled rather than just, oh hey, now that Golbez is no longer under Zemus's control, Kain's A-okay as well. Especially since, you know, there's that whole line of, oh, if I come under possession of Zemus again, then you can kill me thing. That's not really foreshadowing in any version so much as it is they're kind of, I don't want to say smoothing over everything, because it's not exactly a smooth over. It is kind of a natural line. Because, I mean, Kain did do some bad stuff, and no one was really happy to accept him back in, especially not Edge, so, you know, that line makes sense. You don't want to linger on their discussion too long. You want to get right to the part where Cecil almost screws everyone up completely. But anyway, yeah, I do like how they throw that in. You have Kain with an actual struggle, and considering he's not in the party for pretty much the entirety of the game, it's kind of nice to see some internal struggle. Because honestly, outside of his head, it's a really dull plot, because it's just, oh no, the anime rival has been possessed. Oh, now he's not possessed. It's kind of like Leon from Final Fantasy II, except at the same time, even when Leon wasn't possessed, he was kind of a prick. And then just out of nowhere, he's like, oh, well, remember when I tried to become the new Emperor, but then I got ousted when the Emperor came back from hell? Well, maybe we should work together to stop the old Emperor, right, guys? Okay, but anyway, I'm rambling at this point. Kain, pretty good. I like that dialogue. Adds a lot. Anyway, surprisingly enough, my favorite of the 5 characters is actually Edge. So, he starts upon arriving on the moon with, I know how you feel, but this is a matter of life and death, Cecil. I can't even imagine how foul a monster Zemus must be. But if the two of them couldn't even stop him, then this isn't like me. What do I have to be afraid of? He's waiting for us down below. I can almost feel the evil. I'm just shaking because this is so exciting. Why, oh why can't I just run away and leave them here? I guess I just like these crazy people too much. And we'll see later that there is one person in particular that he will, well, he won't name them, but you can probably figure out who it is. So anyway, Edge is the last person to come into the party, really? I mean, Fusoya is technically the last member, or Kain, because he's the last person to join, but Edge is the last new person who sticks, and he really doesn't have that much character development. They pretty much shove him with, oh hey, your parents are monsters and you had to kill them, and now they're dead, oh no! Alright, well now you've avenged them by killing Rubicon, and again you killed a Rubicon. So, he doesn't really have much to work with in the normal game. Here, though, this actually really adds to him. It's not really character development. I mean, you can kind of say that about anyone. All these monologues are more just characterization than development, but still, it's actually kind of effective. Because Edge is normally just that jackass who talks highly of himself a lot, but here he's actually kind of afraid and struggling with himself, and he himself is wondering, wait, what the hell am I doing here? Technically speaking, I could run, but screw it, I like these people. So, you know, it's shortened. Again, I would like to see that developed a little more, but what are you gonna do? As it stands, it's actually pretty interesting. That and the fact that it's also kind of connected to the dialogue you get at the Crystal Chambers. Like, most of the monologues like the major parts of them, you could probably tell they start when you enter the lunar subterrane. The parts where you enter the crystal chambers, and then after you talk to one of the crystals that mentions how Fusoya and Golbez are struggling, then you get a bit of change there. But Edge starts from the fact that Fusoya and Golbez are struggling, and it goes from there, because it actually involves Zemus, so that's pretty neat. It sort of connects Edge to Zemus in just a tiny little way. I mean, no one's really that connected to Zemus, because Zemus came out of nowhere, and he's a boring villain. But you know, Edge showing fear of Zemus's big ol' aura of I'm a tough guy, scaring Edge, you know, that adds something, I guess. Anyway, I have taken up way too much time already. Apologies for that, but, you know, I wanted to go over that, and there was hardly any time for that in the video, so anyway, back to you, past me. And future me, have fun editing this jackass! Alright, I can only assume that future me did a fantastic job on that. So, let's soak in that awesome looking background, and right here, we stand before the final staircase of the game. All maps complete, meaning we get the treasure hunter augments. Let's take a look at the final character thoughts that we didn't go over. And next time on Final Fantasy IV, we're going to face off with Zemus. Hopefully with Golbez and Fusoya by our sides, we'll be able to take him down for good. God, the music and background are so good.